Blocking the membrane is a crucial step in the Western blot protocol and has a huge impact on your target signal and background. When you add the blocking solution to your membrane, tilt the incubation box and pour the solution down the inside of the box rather than directly on top of the membrane. Pouring the blocking buffer directly on the membrane can affect its integrity. The impact from that solution hitting the membrane can physically dislodge the proteins from your membrane. This would compromise the quantification. The impact can also damage the membrane, which would generate background. Now, this principle of pouring the solution down the side of your incubation box will apply to adding any solutions onto your membrane. So one way you may try to save on reagents is to skimp on the amount of blocking buffer that you use. Even though it is tempting to use less buffer or to even dilute your blocking buffer, in the end, your membrane will not be entirely blocked. Unblocked regions of the membrane are susceptible to non-specific binding of the primary and secondary antibodies, which would lead to high background. Using the same type and amount of blocking buffer for every Western blot is one example of the best practices that will lead to producing consistent Western blot data. Another best practice is to adhere to the same protocol every time you run a Western blot. Running a Western blot is time-consuming. It also has multiple steps, and each of those steps do require different amounts of time. So to multitask, you may try to run other protocols, maybe during your incubation or wash steps. Be careful, this can lead to forgetting a wash step or even over-blocking your membrane. So really, it's best to set a timer for each step to ensure that the timing for all of your incubations and washes are the same each time. As part of good laboratory safety practices, you should always wear gloves when performing your experiments. However, even when you wear gloves, you can introduce fingerprints or other contaminants onto your membrane. So to prevent this from happening, always handle the membrane with forceps and at the edges. Also, you don't want to place anything heavy on top of your membrane. You can crush that 3D structure on your membrane, which will result in background on the blot. In this lesson, we covered several different ways that you can inadvertently underblock and damage your membrane. In the next lesson, we'll talk about what to consider when choosing your blocking buffer.